Everybody, welcome back to another episode of FSIDFS Fantasy NASCAR Picks. I'm your host, Mega Roller 31. Truck race went pretty well. Some of the people that had, I know there were the crashes and stuff, but it was actually my GPP line that I threw out there in the GPP core that worked really well with all the crashes and stuff. So probably won't see that much in Cup here. Got kind of a different strategy for you today. So one of the questions that one of the viewers had a couple weeks ago was, does sometimes practice group make a difference with practice time? So if you look at their start numbers on the left-hand side there, the ones that are kind of like an orangish, peaches kind of color were in practice group 2, and the ones that are kind of bluish were in practice group 1. So as we go through, we'll see the qualifying groups are different too. And I think by that time, the track was kind of the same temperature and everything. So I really didn't see too much of a disparity between qualifying from group 1 and group 2. But it looks like most of all the really good long run speeds came in group 2, which this practice and qualifying time is going to be about the same time as the race. It's going to be 80 degrees. I mean, it's like close to 90 yesterday, 35% chance of rain, but shouldn't be anything more than just maybe a little bit of annoyance. It shouldn't be any like downpours or anything that should cancel this race here. So kind of a different strategy here. Like we have 267 laps, so we're going to need to find some dominators, and that's going to be a little bit easier said than done. So this race is pretty straightforward in my opinion, but it's not. And I'll explain that in a second. So I really want to start like right down here in like 25th on back. Now this isn't a plate race, and if we did a plate race, this is where we'd be starting and looking at these drivers. But instead of trying to figure out the dominators and what's going on at the top, and I'll get to the top in a moment, and I'll explain that to you. I think really what I want to do is form a nice core on the bottom. And there's so many different guys today that could dominate and do really well. I don't really feel that I can pinpoint one to say that this is going to be a prime play. So what I'm going to do is there is one lineup that I like more than the others. So that's the one that I will put most of my cash on. But I think having a core of these cheaper place differential drivers in the back today lets you revolve some of the guys more towards the top in your lineup. And then, what I'm probably going to do is probably going to play the $4.20 max, and I'm going to probably have a combination of the 8 guys highlighted as the dominators and mix and match them as much as I can. So I want to start here. So 25th, Harrison Burton's usually a fade for me. Same thing with Ty Dillon. Starting a little too far forward, and they just haven't had really great results. AJ Allmendinger, I think, is going to be pretty popular here just based on Grayson drove this car last time out, and I think he had like an 18th place finish, which is definitely decent for like where they're starting here. And then AJ finished around 18th to 20th, somewhere in the top 20, like closer to 20 more than closer to the top of the top 20 in Vegas, which is a very comparable track to this. So I think he'll definitely be in play down here. Ryan Preece, I think that he won't be super popular, but I think that you can also look at him potentially in cash here, just because like it's a good card like so far back that I can't imagine that he doesn't move up. I do believe he's like right on the he's had some really good form recently. So I think a lot of people are going to write him off at 7,200 here, but I think, he can be in your cash pool down here. Josh Berry, I know he was a little disappointing at Dover, but, he struggled throughout the course of the day, but he fought and ended up, I believe, in the top 10. So I think, again, like he's really getting used to this car. This Hendricks program is decent. he's not going to go out there and dominate the race, but he's not a 30 or 29th place car. So just with the car, the pit crew, the young driver with some talent and the speed that a lot of the other Hendrick cars have shown, even though he didn't in practice, he was only 25th, but he was in the first group, not the second group. So maybe that had a little bit of factor to it. I'm locking him in as one of my prime building blocks here. Justin Haley, I think, is in a good spot here. Also, he's been solid and somebody that's like a cheaper guy. So if you can't afford like Barry at the 77, if you're trying to get some of these other higher priced drivers in, I like Barry significantly more, but Justin Haley, I think, could also be a building block down here in place of Barry if you need more salary. Chase Briscoe, another one I think people are going to write off. I think that people, are like the thumb and the Fords were slow. And I just want to do this quickly for you just to kind of illustrate a point. So we're going to sort them by manufacturer. So if you look here, the Fords are right here. And if you look, besides Cindric and Logano, who are Penske cars, who Cindric has been struggling this season a lot, kind of a sophomore slump, and Logano's car is horrible in dirty air. He's like really fast if there's nobody out there in front of him. You're looking at like 18, 27, 12th, 29th, 31st. Like Harrison Burton had a decent outlier, but he was in the faster group there. But 30, and these like the Rick Ware cars, of course, we expect that from them. But like the Stuart Haas cars at 27th, like 33rd and 32nd, a little bit concerning to me. If we look up at the Chevys, and we're going to take Blicky out because Blicky didn't really even go out there and try and practice, and he didn't even try to qualify. The Hendricks cars were decent up here, and the Childress cars and the Trackhouse cars, but you had a lot of Chevys in the 20s. But then let's look at the Toyotas here, down here. Besides Truex and Gibbs, who are in the 20, again, they could be working on, but they had really good long run speed. You have like 4 cars in the top 8 here. So I know there's less Toyotas, so you can say, okay, it's a smaller sample size, but they looked really good. So the point being, going back to what we were looking at here, with Briscoe, is the Fords were slow. So I think people will potentially write that off, but he was in the other group. So again, I think he's in play here if you need like $200 more and want to pivot off Barry. And do you want to take advantage of a little bit more place differential over Pierce? I definitely can see you playing this. I think Allmendinger would probably be the better play here than the 7K guys. But again, I think, Briscoe, if he works, or if he's the last guy in, if you're taking the core and take like the 2 most expensive guys up there. Again, I don't know mathematically how much is left. If you can't get up to Barry or something, I think Briscoe would work out. But again, I like Barry heads and shoulders above any of these plays. I'm just giving you some pivots in this range, just in case you're trying to do what I'm doing and putting in, rotating in the top like 8 drivers here that I think are going to be cream of the crop today. Gillian, really like him here, 17th in practice, at 5,400. Like there's, besides Stenhouse behind him, Brendan Poole, JJ Yaley, and Blicky in these cars should not get ahead of them. They're probably going to be multiple laps down. And Gillian, I think, definitely can. I'm not looking for a top 25 is fine for me. He's just been solid and consistent, and somebody that I think can get you just enough place differential at this price to pay off what his seller is. I know we're slower in Vegas, but I think that it's definitely, someone here that can be a solid building block with a little bit of place differential to help me get into drives I'm looking for. And Stenhouse, again, he's not a 33rd place car here. He's got no place to go but up. He is aggressive, so I could top 25, top 20, was in range. Even if he wrecks out, he's only going to lose me 3 place differential points here, but he gets a 4 baked in for starting 36 because it's based on so he's not going to go negative on me. So this is the core right here that I'm looking at, like Allmendinger through Stenhouse. And my favorite plays here, as I have for the prime, are going to be Barry Goodwin and Stenhouse here. Next one would be Allmendinger, just based on the price. And then if you then probably Haley, then probably Priest, then probably Briscoe. But this is the bread and butter that I'm going to use to make the rest of the lineups work. I'm not playing anybody down here. They're fades, because again, I don't even know if they're going to stay on the lead lap, and they're only going to get you a couple of points, where these guys have potential for like 5 place differential points. Like Barry, I think, could potentially get up into the top 15. So right there, you have potentially like 14, 15 place differential points. And if he fails, he's only going to lose you like 7 points, which I know it's a risk, but I think the potential's there to have a decent day. So now let's go up to the top. William Byron had a really, really fast lap in qualifying. And I think there's a lot of great things with these people that I have. And the ones that I have in green are ones that I think could be the early dominators. The ones I have in blue, I think, could be later dominators in the race. And, you know, Byron had decent long run speed. It was really close to Larson had like the best. And, you know, even though he was like 16th overall in practice, I think, you know, they're making some adjustments, but the long run speed looked good there. So the only problem with him, and I'm glad that he's showing a little bit of long run speed, is it seems like Byron can get out there and do great early in the race, but as the race progresses, I don't know if it's his crew chief doesn't make as good decisions, or it's just bad luck, or what happens, but he just seems like, we saw this with Ryan Blaney last year, where he'd get out and get poles and start really high up in a race and be there early on, but then just would continuously like fade back and fade back and fade back, not get the job done. No, he has won races this year. He did look great at Vegas, so it's definitely potentially there. But so, and he's got the number 1 position, probably the best pits stall, which we saw at the truck race, really helps you get out there ahead of the competition on this track. So there's a lot of positives for Byron. I think he'll be very popular, probably one of the top 3 drivers. So, and at 10.9, his price tag is second highest there, but it's a little bit of money off Larson. Kyle Larson would be next here. Again, he's one that is has been fast every race, but continues to find trouble. The one race I completely discounted him. He dominated and won the race late. We didn't think he had the car to do it, but he did. He looks really good at these 1.5 mile tracks. I believe that was Richmond. But then last week, you know, found trouble again when you think like, okay, he's putting something together. So I don't know. He got to give him the cash tag, but he's kind of borderline GPP, kind of like Kyle Busch was last year, where he's either going to be contending for the win or like dead last. You know, it's kind of in the same book as like Brandon Jones and Chandler Smith, like over the last couple of years, where they're like either like contending or they're like dead last. So I don't think it's a horrible idea to play Byron and Larson, because obviously like the cars looked really, really good in the same lineup. But what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to in the lineup, like there is a way to like get some of these 3 of these guys in some of the lineups, which is fine. But I think most of my builds going to be 2 of them. And with my Byron, if I do Byron and Larson, I would rather probably do like one of the 2 of them and then take one of the blue guys. Ross Chastain obviously has some speed, continues to find ways to get out front out of nowhere. I mean, obviously he did really well here, 9th in practice. Didn't have great long run speed, which is mildly concerning. And, you know, like I don't think, you know, starting like close to Kyle Larson, I don't know if Larson watched the video and saw last week. What happened was Chastain was running, and Brendan Poole ran right into the back of him and ran him into the wall, and then Larson ran into Poole's wreck, couldn't avoid it, and it ruined his day. So again, it really wasn't Larson's fault, but you just like, again, it's just like we need to buy him a box of Lucky Charms or a horseshoe or something to get him a little bit better luck. So I know there's frustration there, but if a lot of people posted on Twitter and stuff, it looked like there's like you could see the fire coming out of Brendan Poole right before the corner, which means he lifted off the gas, and if Chastain didn't realize that, then that could be why he ran into the back of them. So again, I don't know if there's bad blood here, but Chastain has rubbed many people the wrong way, and as you saw with some of the guys racing last night. I think it was the 24 truck was racing Majeski, and one of the younger drivers, and just was cutting him off and blocking him, and Majeski just kind of tapped him just to teach him a lesson, and ended up wrecking both of them. And so is that going to happen with like Chastain and somebody up here? Who knows? I highly doubt Brendan Poole's going to seek revenge and try to, or be anywhere close enough to try to take out Ross Chastain, and they both were in the truck race last night, and nothing happened there. So, but I do like Ross Chastain. Again, I think his price point is probably the best out of all these ones too, which is kind of enticing. And like I said, Trackhouse cars were decent. Truex looked great last week. Maybe he's rounding back into form, finally figuring out this new car. 20th in practice, mildly concerning, but long run speed looked good, and these Toyotas overall looked good. So I think he's definitely in play again today. And again, he's green, but could be borderline blue here. If you want to do Larson and Byron and then put Truex as your second Dom in, I'm perfectly fine with that. Tyler Reddick. The story behind this car. This car number has won the last two races here. It was won by Kyle Busch, and then it was won by Bubba Wallace here in Kansas. And then Bubba wrecked the car that won the two of them in Vegas, I believe, last fall. So, but this is a historic opportunity because no car number has won 3 consecutive races at a track. And Tyler Reddick could definitely do it. Like, he looked good in practice, 8th, had good long run speed. He runs the wall, which, kind of concerns me, because we saw a lot of people rubbing it last night and it causing issues. The ones that, if you made the higher groove work, it worked great. But Kyle Busch was up there last night, and a couple other guys, and Ben Rhodes, and like kind of tapped the wall. But these cars are, again, like little like Rubbermaid Tonka trucks that seem to be able, with these composite bodies, to do better than the trucks and stuff, as long as they don't break like the toe link or whatever in the back of the car. Those things seem to be made out of glass. It seems at some of these racetracks. But Reddick, I think, definitely is a good track for his style, making that high groove work, can get around some cars, will be aggressive. And he ran here good here last year, but again, just ran into some bad luck and trouble. So I think he's definitely in play here. Logano, 4th fastest in practice, didn't have great long run speed. And again, once he gets in dirty air, it's just not good. So GPP, I don't think I'll be playing much of him at all. Ty Gibbs, I will definitely be playing in GPP. I think his recent form is great. He's been up in the top 10. I think he's finally figuring out this car and this team, and it's all starting to come together. And I'm going to be buying and buying and buying until he wins a race, but not in cash, in a GPP. 19th in practice, had long run speed. I think he was 10th, so he was like right on the cusp of like where I drew the line. But I think I really like Ty Gibbs, and if he's your last guy in a cash, not that bad, and probably a great play on FanDuel also, where you're looking for players that are starting closer to the front for finishing position also. And he's been finishing races, so, and that's another key on FanDuel, because you get points for laps completed. Denny Hamlin, I think he'll be chalk, and here's the fastest in practice here. Has always looked good. It's just mistakes on like pit road and different things like continue to get in his way. So once he can clean those things up and not shoot himself and his team in the proverbial foot, I think that definitely, but I like him also, and I think he being paired with either Byron or Larson are going to be probably most people's cash builds, and with your core at the bottom, it works, and you can get a decent like medium range driver in, and also to round up your lineup. So, uh, Daniel Suarez, I think he's gonna be low owned here. Just not his style of track. I really feel. Um, Again, he's another one that just continues to seem to have bad luck. They'll have speed at some point with his Trackhouse team, but then other times it just doesn't deliver. Blaney had a great race last week. I mean, he's getting so close to a win, but again, like these Fords and Penske cars, it's really haven't shown a ton of speed. And I just like so many other better drivers this week from what I've seen. Could he be a dark horse? Yes. If you're multi-entering, definitely have him in your GPP pool, but I probably have like 15 to 10% of him. I'd really concentrate on the guys in green and blue in most of your pool. Austin Dillon, I just like he's been like the slowest Chevy that's not like a bottom feeder this year, which is just kind of weird. He's had some flashes of good, but I just think he's starting too far forward here. I just don't trust him. 10th in practice, but not great long run speed. So I'm out there. Christopher Bell, I think, could be a sleeper here. I think he'll be highly owned just with the place differential and the potential to dominate. 6, he's in a Toyota. He has some long run speed, and I don't think he'll be as popular as some of the other ones up here. And I mean, if you look at his like history at Kansas, again, he's like running some trouble. Like his average running position is definitely better than his average finish. But if he can put some things together, I think he's good. Definitely has like a top 10 car, probably a top 5 car potentially. So I'll definitely have Christopher Bell mixed into my player pool as a second Dominator. Kevin Harvick's been a decent run recently, but again, like the Stewart Haas cars have been slow, and that's kind of concerning to me. So I don't think this is the week for Kevin Harvick. I think he's starting a little bit too far forward, and even though I have him in cash, I just like the price point at 87, but I don't think I'll make him a huge priority. If he's last guy in, perfect. If not, then he's borderline GPP play. Busher, same thing. Not really interested here. Cindric in a sophomore slump, not really interested. GPP plays here. Kyle Busch, definitely I think he'll be higher owned. 3rd in practice here, had great long run speed. The car was fast here last year when Reddick was driving it, but again, like Reddick ran into some issues, and I think he won early, and I think that took a lot of the pressure off to make the playoffs. But I just think it really kind of changed their strategy, and I don't want to say they became complacent, but they definitely became like mediocre. But I think in the recent weeks you've seen him getting closer and closer to the top, not making as many mistakes. He does have a propensity to speed on pit road. I don't know if like that's NASCAR like just like scrutinizing him more, or if he actually just can't figure it out. But I think he's definitely in play, and he's probably the lowest guy I'd go here for a potential Dominator. Bubba Wallace, I think, is another one that could you play in cash also. He almost got the blue label here as somebody that could be a potential, but I just don't see him like going up and like leading this race. I see him maybe having a great day and getting maybe into the top 5 potentially. I mean, he had the speed in practice. He didn't have the long run speed, which is a little bit concerning, but the Toyotas have been good, and he's run here good in the past. So definitely keep him in your player pool as an option. Almirola 29th in practice, had a decent qualifying run, but still GPP is not his style track. Eric Jones, I'm concerned with he and Grayson with they're switching from, which was a shocker, from Chevys to Toyotas. So, does that mean Hendricks is still going to back them with the tech and stuff? I don't know what it's going to mean for this team. They just haven't had the speed this year. So GPP, not super interested. Brad Keselowski's had really good current form, but again, these Fords really slow. I think you can play him a cash 82, starting 20th, probably could get up to the top 10 potentially. So again, last man in here, but I think he's like kind of the same case as Kevin Harvick. If he's the last guy into your cash build, I'm fine, but don't make it a priority to try to get him in there. Chase Elliott was not fast in practice compared to the rest of these Hendrick cars. He was in the first practice, so that could be potentially part of it. And didn't have great long run speed. I think, maybe still getting used to like coming back from the broken leg and everything. He hasn't been horrible like that, it's been affecting him, but he hasn't been like dominant or elite. So I think he's still playing with cash starting at 21st here, being in a Hendricks car, and maybe it was the first practice. The conditions were different, but again, not a priority to try to get in, but somebody to keep in mind. Gregson already said, I'm worried about them switching manufacturers and just starting a little bit far forward for me here. Michael McDowell, not his kind of track style, and the Fords have been slow, so GPP. Corey LaJoie, usually like playing him, but 24th is starting way too far forward. I'd rather have him start like 30th. But if you have 5,600, it's not a bad price. So if he's the last guy in for your cash lineup, if you need to manipulate like some of my core here, I to get him in, like if you can't afford like Haley, if you're trying to get like the 3 top highest price guys in, I think he could work. I definitely like him over Burton or Dillon or playing one of these 4K guys. So I think he's in play, but again, I started a little bit too far forward for me. But 14th in practice speeds, and he's had a solid consistent season this year, so I'm okay with that. Just like I said, borderline cash, more of a GPP player. Burton and Dillon, I said I'm fading on. I already went through the final guys down here, so this is my strategy. So hopefully it works out for you. Like I said, I think if you find like 3 building blocks, and I showed put the primes on the ones that I like the best down here for place differential, and mix in like these first dominators between Byron, Larson, Chastain, potentially Truex would be in the mix, but I think he's like borderline. He could go either way. And then who's the second dom could potentially be after like stage breaks and things like that. Then and keep in mind, like, Bush is one that doesn't need save points. He's already won a race. I think Bell won a race also. So the guys that have won a race, like they could maybe short pit as like strategy to get track position here. Tire wear definitely is a factor, because we saw in the truck race last night that the guys that stayed out within a couple of laps, like they were the guys that got tires. Like maybe if 10 trucks stayed out, like within like 5 or 6 laps, like they're just all getting passed. So it's not an extreme tire wear track, but it's definitely a big factor here. So that could be something where if they get fresher tires, or like, change up their pitting strategy, if they've already won a race, could get them up to the front and maybe be able through like the right brakes and caution and everything, be able to get out in that clean air and dominate. Because Enfinger had a great race last night, and he wasn't even on the radar. He led 3 laps like the whole season so far. So not a great season, and he had like a really good dominant truck and was able to get out there and pretty much, I think only like there was a long run towards the end after all the wrecks, and I think only like 14 trucks finished on the lead lap because they just like flew by all of them. So we'll see what happens this race today. It should be exciting. I'm looking forward to it. Should be a good race. Again, as always, if you have any questions, put them in the chat below. Hit me up at MegaRuler31 on Twitter. If you want more information on FSIDFS, it is in the description of the video, so you can go there and sign up for our weekly package. And when I say weekly, it is going to be, it's actually a full week. So if you sign up today, you'll actually end up with like 5 races, because you'll get the Cup, 4 races. You'll get the Cup today. You'll get trucks on Friday night, you'll get Xfinity on Saturday, and then it should give you enough to get the information for the Cup race next Sunday on Mother's Day. So appreciate you watching. If these videos help you, as always, please like, subscribe to our channel so you know when the videos are coming out, and share with your friends, as you guys are doing an awesome job, because our subscriptions keep on going up and up and up. We start out the season below 4,000, and we were able to hit that, and now we're up to 4,200 and climbing. So love to get up to 5,000 by the end of the season between this and baseball. And really appreciate you all watching, and all the great comments that you've been leaving us, and the feedback too, because take that into consideration and try to incorporate it into what we do in these videos here to try to help you out even more and more. So appreciate you watching. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the race. Good luck on your contests, and I'll see you next time.